All right, all right, all right. Put your sandwiches down, get your feet off the couch, and listen up. You are listening to MMO Radio Podcast Show. And what does MMO stand for? That stands for Movie Markout. In case you don't know what a mark is, get yourself a dictionary or look it up online, and it'll tell you exactly what a mark is. And we are going to be marking out today. I am here. I am Popcorn Pete, along with my partner in crime,
Vinnie the Vault.
Vinnie the Vault. And today we're going to talk about movies that scared the ever-living shit out of us. We're also going to be talking about scenes from movies that made us jump out of our seats, and movies that made us feel uneasy when we watched them. So, Vinny.
Well, let's start off saying that this is not, and I repeat, not a spoiler-free zone. We're not going to give you away any endings. We're not going to give away any big surprise twists in plot. But if you haven't watched some of these movies by now,
You're an idiot.
You're an idiot. It's your fault you haven't watched anything from the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or possibly even the 90s. If you are not a movie mark, then you shouldn't even be listening to this podcast.
I totally agree. So let's start out with some of the movies that scared us. Scared the shit out of us.
Okay, go ahead. Start with one.
I mean, and this could all be at an age.
It's all suggestive to the age you're at, what
Right.
the conditions are you're watching it in, anything like that.
Totally agree. But I mean, like, sometimes, like, you'll watch a movie and then years and years and years later, you watch them again. And then you're like, why was I scared of that?
Yes, true.
Right.
But then there are still those that, to this day, you watch it in certain conditions and
It
it
still-
still scares the shit out of you.
It still freaks the fuck out of you.
Yep.
Like, absolutely. So did you want me to go first?
Yeah, go
or-
first. Go right ahead.
Okay. One of the first movies, and I know this has to do with my age that I saw it. I was a very young child.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably a movie that a lot of people haven't heard of.
Okay.
And it was a movie called Nightwing.
Oh, yes, Nightwing. I remember Nightwing about the rabid bats.
The rabid bats.
Yes.
Right. And I just remember going to the theater to see it, because you see the previews and everything, and you're like, oh, this is great, I want to check this out. And I went and I saw it. Well, I saw part of it.
You saw part of it.
I saw part of it because I actually got so scared that I was with my aunt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't watch this. So we ran out of the theater, and there was another movie playing, and it was called The Main Event.
Barbara Streisand and Brian O'Neill? No.
Yes.
Brian O'Neill?
Ryan O'Neill.
Ryan O'Neill. I knew it was an O'Neill.
But so we ran out of the theater and we're like, oh, that was too scary. Can we see something else? And they obliged and they let us into the movie. But it was just, like, looking back at it now,
Yeah.
it was just like that stop motion animation.
Yeah, true.
And it was just like, I look back at it now and I was like, why was I scared of that?
But now the big question is have you watched it in the past since then?
Oh yeah,
You have.
and it's horrible.
Yes, it is a horrible movie. I
and
didn't want to say anything because I've seen it, and other than watching a bunch of people run around where bats fly just over their heads on wires, it just it looks like they're moving and the bats aren't.
Right, and plus, you got the stop motion animation.
Yes.
So it's like, cut, and you can see where the cuts are being made.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, I was like, why was I even scared of that? But
Oh, you were how old?
Oh, I was very young.
Okay.
Very young. So,
All right,
I mean,
so-
that scared the shit out of me. And, like, looking back at it now, I mean, it's one of those laughable movies.
Right, yeah.
And like I said, I mean, probably anybody who's listening right now would be like, oh, I've never even heard of that movie.
Yeah, see, now I've never left a film because I was scared. I've always left films because the film was just so bad that I couldn't take it anymore. Those are the films that I've left on.
I mean, there's been few and far in between times where, like, I've seen a movie, and not necessarily horror movies, but, there have been movies that I'm watching, and I just wanted to leave the theater.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect example, and, we're gonna get back into this list, but perfect example was Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. And here's the thing. There was the town that I live in, there was 2 movie theaters that were competing with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And one had $1 movie night. And I was like, okay, I can see a movie and, I'll pay more for the popcorn than I will for the seeing the movie.
Yeah.
And I was watching Ace Ventura 2, and I was just like, I just wanted to get up and leave. But I was there with my girlfriend and her kid at the time, and I was like, you know what, all right, I'll pull through this, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I know where you're coming from, because I've remembering, I can only remember 2 movies that I actually walked out on.
So you actually did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it wasn't because I was scared. It was because the movies were so bad. I walked out of Waterworld.
Oh, horrible!
Yep. And I walked out of I think it was To Die For Me with Nicole Kidman.
Oh, To Die For.
To Die For. Okay, I walked out of both of those.
That was based on the
Pamela Smart murders up in New Hampshire. I walked out of both of those. The only movie that I remember not walking out on, because the movie was so bad and I was hoping that it would get better, was Under the Cherry Moon with Prince.
Oh.
The movie was horrible. I can only say that I stayed until the very end because they killed Prince. Spoiler alert. They killed Prince.
Sorry about that.
They killed Prince in the movie, and it was like the only upside of that entire film.
Right. I mean, but like, you're a Prince fan.
Yes.
I'm a Prince fan. And, after Purple Rain, you expected so much more.
Oh, yes.
And Prince expected that, well, hey.
He could do nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I can direct. And I can write a movie. But, I mean, honestly, it was just the drizzling shits.
Yep.
I mean, that movie sucked.
Yep.
But let's get back into this, and
okay.
Let's name one of the movies that scare the crap out of you.
Okay, mine is Squirm. And if nobody's ever heard of Squirm, it runs in the category of killer animals.
Right.
So in this case, it's killer worms. The ground gets electrified, and all these worms come out.
Spoiler.
With a hunger. Why? It's not an ending.
No. I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead.
What did we just say? It was a spoiler-free zone. So unless I'm telling an ending, there's no spoilers.
Okay. Well, then disregard what I just said. But anyway,
the ground gets electrified, and the worms come up and start chewing on people.
Right.
Specifically, the worms that are in this worm farm, which are, I guess, they're genetically modified sea worms, which have sea worms. If you don't know, actually have teeth.
Yeah, and they show close-ups, and
right, and those are actual sea worms,
and they're ugly as shit.
Yes, they've got like outside teeth and then inside teeth, and I'll tell you, they are the damnedest things to try to get undone from your fingers if you ever get bit by one.
Have you ever gotten bit by one?
Oh yes. How would I know? No.
Get the fuck out of here! Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I just remember.
You know what it's like to get a fish hook in your hand or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, think of that about 10 times more.
Ooh.
Because this thing, no matter how much you pull on it, it grabs on even more.
And the thing that was freaky about that movie, I don't mean to cut you off, but the thing that was freaky about that movie is like when the teeth came out, you hear this.
Oh yeah, they actually gave it a roar.
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's creepy.
Yeah, which worms don't have a roar.
Right.
It's just
Even when you stick the hook through them, they don't make a roar.
They don't make a sound. But no, that freaked me out because at the time I was big into fishing.
Okay.
And I'd fish, I fish saltwater as well as freshwater.
Right.
And I'd fish on the piers and things like that. And once I saw that, and I knew what saltwater worms were like.
Right.
It was like, well, I don't really need to see this anymore. I don't like this. But parts of what freaked me out about the movie was there's a part where the worms have literally taken over this entire town.
Right.
And they're in the pipes and they're in the water and everything. And they've got this one girl turns the water on to a shower and she lets the water run like everybody else does to let the water warm up.
Kind of like a psycho scene.
Yeah. But what happens is the water starts gurgling. And it's because the worms are clogging up the pipe.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the worms are starting to hang from the open holes in the shower head. So you have all these worms starting to hang down towards her as she's fiddling around with the knob for the nozzle, and she goes, "Oh, the hell with it!" And she just shuts the water off. And then she looks back, and the worms are all sucked back up.
Yeah, that was an interesting movie. I think the special effects was done by Rick Baker, if I'm not mistaken.
It might have been. All I know is that's one of the few films that I know of firsthand that got changed in ratings. Because when I went to see that as a kid, that was rated R. Mm-hmm. When I picked up the Blu-ray a couple of years back, it was rated PG.
Really?
Yes. Wow. So that was actually the ratings board actually changed the rating on that.
Well, you know the director Frank Henenlotter from Basket Case?
Yes.
I believe it was Basket Case or one of his other movies, but they actually wanted to have the first rating for his movies, S.
Oh, really?
Standing for shit. Because they were just so bad. But, all right. Another movie that scared the hell out of me was a foreign film.
Okay.
I think it might have been from Italy or someplace, but it was called Terror. Not to be confused with the Boris Karloff Terror.
Or the Jack Nicholson Terror.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to be confused with those, but it was about a witch that supposedly put a curse on this town, and they basically burned her alive at the stake. And then later on, years later, she comes back, almost kind of like the Blair Witch Project, but she starts terrorizing people. And,
okay.
I mean, it was a very gory film, and it was a double feature that I went with my mom, and once again, very young age. But I was like, "Oh, Mom, can we go and see this double feature?" And she was against it, but she was like, "Oh, all right." So I saw Terror, and totally freaked me out. I mean, because there was beheadings, there was all kinds of wacky shit going on, and then the second half of the double feature was The Boogeyman.
Okay.
After I saw Terror, I was like, all right, we're out of here.
So you never even stayed to see Boogeyman?
I never stayed to see The Boogeyman, but yeah, that freaked me out. But if you people haven't seen this movie, Terror, it is available on, I believe, Amazon.com. And yeah, it's worth a looking.
There you go.
All right, what do you got next?
All right. Mine is a film from the 70s. I don't know exactly what year it is. It's called Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I remember seeing this film the first time. I don't know how old I was. I must have been in my early, probably 11, 12 years old, somewhere right in there. I watched it on Creature Double Feature, where here in Boston area it was
WLVI TV 56.
Yep,
Yep.
UHF channel. So the reception wasn't that great.
Okay.
All right, so it was snowy. It's not like today when you get clear picture and you get up in arms when it's not clear. Then it wasn't clear. You just lived with it.
And that was back in the day. I didn't mean to cut you off again, but that was back in the day when you sat on your couch. You had about 4 or 5 channels, and if you didn't like something that was on the TV, you actually had to get off the couch.
Oh, and change the channel.
Walk up and click the knob and change the channel, and then cable changed all that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'd think so.
Okay.
All right. Well, when I originally saw this, obviously it was on a snowy channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I had always wondered whether or not it was truly snowy like that, or if it was made that way, or if it was because of the channel. Well, when I never found it on VHS.
Right.
Forgot about it for years. Showed up at Walmart one time on DVD. I said, I'm not passing this up. I'm getting it.
Right.
Got it, and it was just as snowy as it was then. So it was part of the atmosphere of how they made the movie.
Really?
Which makes it even freakier because it's a movie about vampires that don't come out and say they're vampires. It's just every now and then you see people from the town with little bandages on their throats that are never explained. But then you have 1, 2, 3 missing people. Then you have these people running around that are supposedly dead, and you just never know. And then by the end of the film, it's like, yes, and the heroine, who is named Jessica, it's like, yeah, I believe Jessica. It's not just made up in her mind. It's really happening. And by the end of the film, it's like, yeah, I'm not going up north anymore. I'm not going up to New Hampshire, because I think it takes place in New Hampshire or Vermont or someplace like that.
Which is very snowy.
Yeah. But no. I don't mean snowy as in snow on the ground. I just mean snowy like in the picture.
Right.
So that's how they filmed it, to give it some atmosphere. So it didn't look like... Oh, it looks like as if you were looking at a found footage film now.
Oh, where you see the lines and all that.
Yeah, stuff like that. But
crap in the driving.
Right, but this was done so it gave it some atmosphere.
Right.
So... But because of that, because you never knew exactly what was going on in this film,
right,
bothered me until the very end. Because then at that point, it's like, oh, that's right, she was real. She knew what was going on. And at the end, you're not quite sure of what side of the fence you're on this thing, or whether or not it's really there, or it's really tossed her for a loop. You just don't know. And it freaked me out knowing that. Not knowing by the end, I didn't know what side of the fence I'm supposed to be on.
So once you got the film, you realized, okay, it wasn't the TV.
It wasn't the TV. It was actually filmed that way.
Right. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Okay. Jaws.
Okay, Jaws. I got my own problems with Jaws.
I think we all do. But, yeah. I went to see Jaws. I was probably, 8 years old. And the thing that scared the crap out of me to begin with is it was supposedly happening in the New England area.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember going to see that movie. And the funny thing is, like, throughout the entire movie,
mm-hmm.
you never really saw the damn shark.
Right.
because all of the
Mechanicals went wrong.
Yeah,
None of it was by design.
the mechanicals went wrong. First time they put it into the ocean with the cold water, the damn shark just sank.
Yep.
And then Steven Spielberg, who, I don't know, I think he was around 23 or
Yeah, he was in his 20s when he filmed it.
and he was like, oh great, here I am.
Now, the whole plan was that they were just going to film everything that they possibly could that didn't involve the shark, and that they would get the shark working eventually down the road and pick up those scenes.
Right.
Instead of doing 3 scenes, we're going to be doing 8 scenes because we got those, the other 5 scenes to do from the other areas.
Right. I mean, but
But it never did.
in the process, I mean, it was a big pain in the ass. I mean, he was going way beyond budget.
Mm-hmm.
He was way behind schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and he still had to deliver something.
Yeah.
So that's when they came up with the idea for the kegs in the water. And when you saw the kegs, or the barrels, whatever you want to call them, when you saw that, moving across the screen.
Let alone the part of the story that you can actually see the boat pulling the kegs behind it, right?
I've never seen that.
You've never noticed that?
No.
And don't tell me it's not. It's in a director's cut or anything, because it's in the film. Because you can actually see the boat pulling the kegs behind the boat.
Get the fuck out
No,
of here. Really?
No. Because if you watch it, there's one scene where you can actually see it, right?
Okay.
And then the next scene, they tighten up the shot so you can't see the boat.
Wow. I mean,
Now, how many times have you? That's 1975.
I've seen Jaws a million times.
Okay, so have I, and I've seen it in the theater. I went to the theater 5 times in a row to see it when I was 10.
Get out of here.
Oh no, this was at a time when PG-13, not PG-13, PG meant something, and I actually had to get a note from my mother every single day to go and see this film, just to prove that she gave me permission. I went to see that Monday through Friday.
So you saw it every day of the week?
Every day of the week. Then my parents went to see it Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told when my mother came back, I could never see that movie again. But I had already seen it 5 times, so I was all set until, I could see it again whenever. But I've seen it in the theater. I've seen it in the re-release. I've seen it on video cassette, I've seen it on DVD, and I've seen it on Blu-ray. The only way I've never seen it is on Laserdisc.
Right.
But from what I understand, from Laserdisc to DVD, there's really not much difference.
Well, now I'm going to have to go and look for that scene where you can see the boat actually pulling the kegs. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Crazy.
Now, I mean, I've got problems with Jaws myself because, I mean, not only will I not, I have a decent fare of salt water now.
Yep.
More because I just, after all these years of seeing different things being filmed that are in the water, that I've got a healthy respect for it now. Before, it was more or less, I was afraid of the water coming out of my tap into the tub.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10 years old, my mother would be drawing a bath for me, with a lot of hot water, so there's a lot of steam, a lot of bubbles in the water, so you can't see through the water to the bottom of the tub.
Hot water burn, baby!
And all I could think of was that there was a shark underneath all that I couldn't see.
Well, didn't they portray that in Saturday the 14th? With the shark fin?
Yeah, they did, but that was more of a callback to A Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, yeah,
creature that came out.
Because he had the shark fin on his head. Yeah. But, so what did you think of the sequels?
The sequels were okay.
I thought Jaws 2 was decent.
Yes. And then that was the end of it. There were no other sequels after that.
Yeah, and then it just went to
there were no sequels after Jaws 2.
So Jaws 3 and...
You cannot say anything that can convince me that there were any sequels after Jaws 2.
Okay, well...
There were no sequels after Jaws 2.
Okay, Vinnie the Vault. You've heard it here first. But, okay, since we're on the topic of Jaws...
All right.
What about Great White?
Oh, the Italian film with
Vic Morrow.
Vic Morrow. Yes. Yes. What about it? It was a true ripoff.
It was a total ripoff.
Yeah,
and
it was a total ripoff. There were through the movie there are similarities to things that they did in Jaws. There are
some.
Will you let me finish?
Okay, go ahead. Knock yourself
There are
out.
some similarities through Jaws throughout the film. It's when they get to the end where they blow up the shark,
right?
Which is astronomical that they were able to do that to 2 sharks, that, let alone 1, that you could actually say there's a similarity.
Well, the whole thing with Vic Morrow's character, he was definitely a ripoff of Robert Shaw's character
Quint,
Quint.
Yes.
And they actually took, I can't remember what year the film came out, but there was actually scenes from Jaws 2 where the shark actually attacked a helicopter.
Yes.
And I was just like, Spielberg got pissed off about it. And
but he didn't get pissed off about the attack on the helicopter.
No,
he had nothing to do with that second film.
No. But I mean, he got pissed off because it was
Well, it was yanked out of the because of Spielberg. It got yanked out of the theater. What, 2 weeks after the release or 3 weeks after the release?
It didn't last long in the theater. I remember I saw it on the first day, and then next thing you know, it was out of the theater.
Yeah, I saw it that first weekend, and that was the end of it.
And yeah, it was just one of those crazy things. But Spielberg's got enough pull that he can sit there and say, "This is a rip-off of my film. If you don't pull it," then...
And this was also '82, so he already had an established benchmark for himself as a director with pull.
Yeah. And I think in '82, didn't he come out with E.T.?
E.T. was '82, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about that I didn't like is because in '82, E.T. came out, great movie, but it was also in competition with another alien movie.
Oh, God. Which one?
John Carpenter's The Thing. And it's because...
That was '83.
No, that was '82.
'82?
82.
I thought it was '83.
No. And the reason John Carpenter's The Thing didn't do as well as it should have, because, I mean, honestly, great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie, but because, we got this big, terrible alien.
Yeah. And are you saying it was because it was good and bad?
Basically.
Oh, please don't tell me that.
Seriously,
it was. I'd have to check to see what it was up against.
It was up against E.T.
Opening day.
I wouldn't say opening day,
Yeah.
but
See, I'd be curious about what it was up against on opening day, which dragged it because even in the '80s, even after your opening day, if you had a horrible film, you could still make some money. Now, I'm not saying the thing didn't make money, because it did.
Oh, it definitely did.
Yeah, I'm just saying that what it was up against may not have allowed it to make money.
Okay, the thing...
So let's say the thing was up against the Blues Brothers. I know it's 2 different years, but let's say it was up against the Blues Brothers.
Okay.
You would have made more money out of a comedy than you would have out of a horror, even in the early '80s. Most horror stuff was relinquished to the back burner because we still had drive-ins then. We still video cassettes were coming out of our ears at that point,
right?
Which started the whole home market for horror films.
But I mean, I still feel And this is just my opinion.
And that's good. Just opinions are like everybody.
The opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
I wasn't going to say it.
Well, I did.
I wasn't going to say it.
I did. You heard it here first from Popcorn Pete. No.
That everybody's got an asshole.
But yeah, I mean, I think that more people will like, oh, there's this alien movie, and
Yeah.
horror one, friendly one. Let's see the friendly one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think so. But all right, now
Okay.
I'm taking a look at something that bothered me at the time that it came out. Okay. Well, actually, at the time it came out, at the time I saw it.
Okay.
It's a, I guess now by today's standards you'd call it a mockumentary.
Mm-hmm.
The Late Great Planet Earth.
All right.
Which was, I'm not saying the whole film bothered me, but parts of the film bothered me because the parts of the film had to do with the destruction of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time that I first saw it, which I can't even tell you how old I was, but I had a problem with this world being destroyed and me not being known by anybody. That I was just going to be dust in the wind.
Okay.
and that's just it bothered me. And it bothered me for a long time.
So, did you have a fear of the?
I had a fear of the apocalypse.
Okay. All right. No.
Which everybody should still have a fear of the apocalypse.
Well.
And I'm not talking about the X-Men character, so you can get that out of your head.
But I think nowadays everybody's too focused on their cell phones to.
Yeah, but nobody's going to notice the apocalypse now because they're going to be focused on their cell phones.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, the apocalypse is coming. Okay, so what are you doing?
But you're not even going to get that. You're not the bomb is going to go off, and you know what? We're going to have shadows of people instead of just walking. They're going to be walking bent over, looking at their phone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, take a look at some of the footage of Nagasaki and Hiroshima after the bomb's been dropped.
I don't even like looking at stuff like that.
Oh, you don't like looking at stuff like that, but you don't have worry about watching horror movies.
Well, that's different.
How is that different?
It's different because, I mean, some of it's real, but a lot of it's just storytelling.
99% of it's storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'll get into this very shortly, but there are some things that have happened in real life that have been made into movies that kind of freak you out.
Yeah.
And well, my last movie for one of the movies that scared the shit out of me was The Exorcist.
Okay, yeah.
See, I grew up with a mother.
I did too, so don't try to pull that mother on cat on me.
Hey. Yeah, I grew up with a mother who was very, very religious.
Uh-huh.
And she would put the fear of God into you.
Okay.
If you did this, oh, you were evil. If you did that, oh my God. If you did this, whoa, watch out.
All right. So did you just accept your fate? Is that what you're doing?
No, nothing like that. But, that was one of the movies that I shouldn't have watched. Because, this girl, spoiler alert, was fooling around with the Ouija board. And then, supposedly, because of that,
we're talking about the original cut?
I think so.
Because I thought the original cut showed that the house that they were in had already been affected by a spirit.
I don't think I've ever seen that version.
No, maybe I'm thinking of one of the director's cuts or or something.
Maybe, but I just know that Linda Blair was fooling around with the Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, slowly, she starts getting sick and being weird, and she's flopping up and down on the bed, and
She turned into a nerd.
I don't know if you'd say that, but just some of the shit that went on in that movie, and with the special effects makeup by Dick Smith, who, I mean, God bless him, but I mean, just some of the things that he projected onto that screen,
Right.
was just it was terrifying.
Right. Oh yeah.
It was horrifying, and the whole thing with the throwing up of the pea soup. Yep. And the head spinning around, and then she's taking the crucifix, and we don't need to go there, but
Yeah.
we all know what happened. And it was just creepy as hell. But another creepy thing is have you ever seen the footage with Linda Blair sitting on the bed, tied to the bed, and she's speaking in her normal voice?
Mm-hmm.
That's creepy in itself. Because what was she, like 12 years old?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
But I mean, and all the makeup effects that they had to put on her face, and put in the
Her eyes.
put the contacts in her eyes and everything,
Mm-hmm.
which they've now perfected. But I mean, we're talking, this is the 70s. So,
Yeah.
these big heavy lenses
Mm-hmm.
in her eyes, which must have been affecting her eyes for
Oh, yeah.
for a 12-year-old. But I mean, the ordeal she must have went through
Oh yeah. It's
just to play that role.
Yeah. It's terrifying to think that what she herself put herself through
Right.
to do this role in a craft that she was very new to.
Right.
Considering she was 12 years old. I mean, unless she's been doing a lot of child acting up until that point, it's amazing what she herself would put herself through.
I don't think she did any acting
No.
before that.
I don't think so either. But one of the things about that movie that's always creeped me out was out of the director's cut, where they put back footage that they had taken out, and they taken out the spider walk down the staircase.
Yes.
And obviously I know because at the time it with what they were doing, they were shooting for time, so they had to take something out. So it was, it didn't really mean a lot to the storyline. So, you could take that out. Now I can see it doesn't look that great put back in, but the effect itself of watching this little girl turn herself over and run down the wall and then down the stairs against her back with her head turned around. I mean, that's freaky enough.
That was creepy. That was very, very creepy.
Yeah. All right, so my turn.
Your turn, buddy.
Okay, my turn. We're going back in time. Back in time. We're going back to the 1940s.
Uh-oh.
Now, by today's standards and by today's remakes, it's nothing but a blip on the screen. But at the time, for a 7-year-old,
Okay.
The Wolfman was a terrifying film.
Okay.
And it freaked me out so bad that I had actually thought I had seen the Wolfman lurking in the parking lot of a restaurant that me and my father had gone to. And when I went, obviously I went, just freaked me out, so I went and told him. And he said, "You're not watching any more horror movies." So that was that.
Are you sure it wasn't a coyote or some shit?
No, it wasn't a coyote.
Okay.
No, I knew what it was.
All right.
I knew what it was.
Do you still believe you saw that?
No, I do not believe I saw it. I have a very vivid imagination, and I know it was my imagination that made me think that I saw the Wolfman in the parking lot.
And Vinnie the Vault also thinks that Bigfoot is real.
And you're the one that's afraid of the devil. Woohoo!
And sharks.
And sharks. Oh, let's not forget the sharks.
The sharks are real!
Then you better watch out the next time you sit your ass down to take a shit.
Well, ever since Jaws, I hate going in the water.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What about some scenes from movies
Okay, go ahead.
that have made you jump?
That made me jump. Oh, I can take that off the top of one right off the top of the list.
Okay.
And that'd be Carrie.
And
When the hand comes up out of at the end.
is that a spoiler alert?
We've already screwed this up enough, so.
Well, hey, if you don't like it, fuck you. Okay.
When their hand comes up out of the grave.
Yeah, that's a total jump scene.
Yeah.
I mean,
But the thing is when they try to do it in the remake, I thought it was horrendous.
I don't remember that in the remake, because I watched it once and I was like, this is the shits.
Yeah. See, I watched it once, and that's all I intended to watch it for, because I didn't like the sequel that they made. I didn't like the remake. I never got to see the musical, so I have no qualms about saying I didn't see the musical.
Carrie has a musical?
I believe it was a musical. It was either a musical or a play, but I'm almost positive it was a musical.
I know The Evil Dead has a musical.
And I know Misery has a play.
Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah.
You said it was pretty decent.
Yeah, it was pretty decent, considering it was all within one room.
Right. Okay, well, some of the movies that made me jump was obviously the big final scare scenes for Friday the 13th, Part 1 and 2.
Okay, yep.
I mean, Jason jumping up out of the lake, and if you haven't seen this, then I don't know what to tell you. Stop listening. And then in Part 2, where, what the hell's her name?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. She was sitting there with the pitchfork.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy opened the door, and then the little dog, the little
Cute
little dog. You just wanted to hug him and squeeze him and all that crap.
Jason Woodleader.
Okay.
Like this. The eyes would pop out and everything.
Yeah. But, the dog comes running.
Is that a spoiler for Part 3?
Sorry. So, yeah. Dog comes running towards, I want to remember her name, but I can't. Fuck. And then Jason jumps through the window.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And then they kept trying it, like in Part 3 and all this shit, and I was just like, you guys are...
Well, by Part 3, they had to do something. And it was just like, well, let's try to perfect this.
Yeah, well, let's get Mrs. Voorhees jumping out of the pond, but her head's attached, and she's a corpse, and what the fuck? And I was just like, this is...
And then they brought her back in, what, Part 7? Or Part 8? No, Part 7. She came back and she hugged Jason. Oh, what a motherly moment.
And I know they brought her back for the, was it the remake, or was it Jason vs. Freddy?
No. They might have brought it back for Jason vs. Freddy just for a piece that Freddy could play around with his mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, I might be thinking of that too. But I thought it was Part 7.
I'm not sure.
But it sounds like it's something Freddy would do.
All right, what do you got?
All right. My next one would be Trilogy of Terror.
Okay, what about that scared you?
Oh, the fucking doll. The fucking doll freaked me the fuck out.
Did it really?
And that and the fact that when he's trying to saw her out of the suitcase, that she tries to grab the knife with her fingers.
It's just cutting her fingers open. Yeah, yeah.
Get a fucking pair of pliers.
Or turn the suitcase over. Do something. What the fuck? Throw it out the window.
Yeah, sure. Do something. Get rid of it. Oh my
Jesus
God.
Christ.
Yeah, no. It was mainly the doll. Freaked me the hell out.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Because I thought the doll was cool as shit.
See, well, years later, I thought it was cool as shit. But I always thought it was freaky. And then when she'd be sitting there waiting for her mother, and she had the jagged teeth. Oh, that was classic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she's just sitting there with the knife,
stabbing the floor.
waiting. Oh yeah.
Great movie. Another jump moment for me was, remember the movie Wait Until Dark?
Oh yes, Katharine Hepburn.
Was it Catherine or Aubrey?
Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey
Hepburn. Yes.
Okay. The scene where, she's obviously a blind girl. She's walking around, and there's killers in her house.
Oh yes.
And the part where she's like, she thinks the guy's dead. She's walking across the floor, and all of a sudden, was it? What the hell's his name?
You'd have to give me more than that.
Alan.
Go
Alan
on.
Alden? Or?
No, it's not Alan Alda. Go on.
So he jumps across the floor
Mm-hmm.
to grab her, and it just came out of nowhere. Like, he's in the shadows, and all of a sudden, boom! He comes out, grabs her, and then she's struggling. She gets to the refrigerator, and then later on, fucking bang, and watch a movie.
All right. Now, one of mine, it's not so much a jump out of your seat moment, but it makes me extremely uncomfortable.
Which
Okay.
we will be getting to soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is The Island
Okay.
with Michael Caine.
Never seen it.
The movie's about modern day pirates, and not the nice kind.
Not like Jack Sparrow. Right?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
And they actually kidnap this father and son, steal their yacht, kidnap them, and they're in the process of making the boy one of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So to break his will, they're trying to keep him awake. They're making him forcing him to read this book. I don't even remember what book it is. But to keep him awake and to keep him from falling asleep, they take toothpicks and wedge them up underneath his eyelids
Oh,
to
yuck.
keep his eyes open.
Okay. Bleh. I don't like eye violence.
Well, that's
That freaks me out.
okay. Well, if we're going to talk about that, then we'll talk about blood-sucking freaks.
Oh, Jesus. Tap dance of Christ. Okay.
Which eye moment do you want to talk about now?
Do you want to go with blood-sucking freaks or?
Well, blood-sucking freaks, we can talk about how the midget eats an eyeball after he takes it out of the girl, or how he slices it with a razor blade.
Ralphus.
You want to go back to the toothpicks?
Ralphus from Blood-Sucking Freaks. Wow. Crazy.
All right, go ahead. Your turn.
Okay. Movies that made me feel uneasy. Now, a lot of these movies that made me feel uneasy is because a lot of them were based on real life stories.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have been proven to be false,
Okay.
but others, this really happened. Okay, so I'm going to start with The Untold Story.
Japanese serial killer, right?
I'm not sure if it exactly was Japanese. I know it was I think it was Chinese.
Okay.
But it was based on a real life serial killer from Hong Kong.
Then it would be Chinese.
Then it would be Chinese. But I think it was, oh God, 92 maybe.
Okay.
But basically, there was this guy, and he was a swindler, and he and his boss used to play this Chinese game. It was almost like checkers, Mahjong.
Mahjong?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you, Vault.
I think I know more about this story than you do.
All right, tell us how it ends.
Oh, well, in one of two ways. They either catch him or they kill him.
Okay, so anyway. He cheated this guy out of a bunch of money, and he was like, okay, you owe me all this money and everything. So the guy wouldn't pay up. He's like, you're a swindler. Fuck you. I'm not paying you. So then they got into a fight, and he ended up killing him and his wife and his children, which the disturbing part was they showed the part where he was killing everybody,
Right.
including the children, which, like I said, very disturbing, just to get the money
Right.
for the restaurant.
Right. Right.
And then his employees started thinking that, this guy's kind of creepy and everything. So he started killing them.
Jeez.
And this is all based on a true story.
Untrue story.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. No. Actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a break right at the moment, and we'll be back. Now we're back from break. So the movie I want to talk about is Deliverance.
All right.
Now it's not for what you think. No. It has nothing to do with that.
That was creepy enough as it is.
Yeah, it was creepy enough as it is. But because of all the things that happened in the movie, it sort of gave me the creeps about going camping.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, not that I was ever camping with just guys but it was always with family. But it was going camping and not knowing what was out there. That creeped me out. So after really seeing this movie, it was like, I don't know if I want to go camping anymore.
Yeah, that was one of those movies where you're like, yeah, do I really want to take this trip, or should I just go to the beach?
Yeah, heaven forbid if anybody at that point ever asked me to go canoeing. No, I'm not going with you guys.
Nah.
Kayaking? No, I'm not going. I'm sorry. It's too much like canoeing.
But I mean, the same can be said with like the Friday the 13th movies. Like,
Yeah.
You don't want to go camping.
Oh no, that's to a faraway campground.
Right. I mean, but Deliverance, I mean, yeah, I just watched that today actually, and yeah, it's just a lot of creepy shit going on in that movie.
Yep. Besides the homosexual rape of Ned Beatty, I think it was Ned Beatty.
Yes, it was Ned Beatty. And
considering Burt Reynolds was a lifelong friend of his, I'm surprised that they got away as easily as they did. All right. Okay, your turn.
Let's see. Okay. A movie that creeped me out because I thought it was based on real life stuff that happened. But a lot of it has been exposed as fictionalized. Was Faces of Death.
Oh yes, Faces of Death.
Yeah. But I think it's all in the mind element. Like if you sit there and say, okay, this is real,
Which is what they told you at the beginning of every one of those movies, that everything you're about to see is real.
Pretty much. I mean, the same thing with the Blair Witch. I mean, you're going into this movie thinking that the whole thing is real, and then you come out of it, and then you find out, like, maybe years later that it's fake.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just something about that, well, this is based on a real-life true story, and, the whatever.
Which is something else we can get into at another time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something that really hits a nerve and really scares you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And, just some of those little features that they had in Faces of Death, you think's real.
Yeah. Oh, no, most definitely. Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Does Faces of Death, now we're talking about the first one.
Right.
The Faces of Death, if you had to, would you classify that as a date film?
As a date film?
Yeah.
Like when I take a date to there?
No. Since we're all in a video market at home now, if you had a copy of this to watch at home and you were inviting a girl over, would you throw that in as a date film?
No.
You mean you don't want to cuddle with her as she's cowering in your arms?
I mean, there's other scary movies for that. But
Sure there are. There's Audition. You gotta admit, Audition is 2 parts film. The first hour and a half, or the first 45 minutes, is a date film. You have to admit that.
All right.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
The second half of that film, the second 45 minutes, is a horror flick. Because nothing happens after the first until the first 45 minutes is over.
You are a sick man, Vinnie DeVault. Let me tell you that.
Oh, now come on.
But
yeah, no. Honestly, are you telling me you wouldn't throw Faces of Death on just so she could cower in your shoulder? Go, I don't want to look at this, and that she's still looking.
No, I wouldn't subject her to Faces of Death. But
there's a but there.
There is a big but there. But
well, I don't know. I've never met her.
I haven't either.
Okay. Well.
But I would say a great horror movie that has that aspect of
reality.
Yeah, that's the word. Is Hostel.
Yeah, true. But I mean, how many people do you know that go European backpacking? I've known a lot of people,
mm-hmm.
and I only know of one that ever went to a hostel in Europe.
But I mean,
nothing ever happened to him.
Well, I mean, but you hear of all those horror stories.
Yes, and of course, and yes, I know. I agree. The guy's not a girl, and he's not blonde, and all this other stuff. I understand. They're looking for a specific type.
No, I get that.
I know, but I thought that's what you were trying to make a point.
No. What I'm trying to make a point is, I mean, you've heard those horror stories of, hey, if you travel overseas and everything, you've heard the kidney stories.
Yeah.
You wake up in the bathtub.
The kidney stories was here.
What?
But did you ever watch X-Files? Come on.
Well, it doesn't just happen here. It happens overseas, too.
Oh, that's what they say about serial killers. How many foreign serial killers do you know?
But what I'm saying is, I mean, you hear all these horror stories, and this is just a little public announcement to all you kids out there, you dumb jerks. If you're ever in a bar and you have a drink with you and you have to go to the bathroom, take your drink with you to the bathroom. Or either finish the drink off before you go to the bathroom. Because you never know, if you sit there and you place your beer, you place your drink, whatever the hell you got in your hand, that somebody's going to take a little bit of medication and put it into your drink.
You mean
And
like
then-
blood pressure medication?
Well, not blood pressure medication, but you know.
You know, the third option for that is just order another drink when you get back.
Yeah,
Don't even drink the one that you left behind. Drink it and order another one.
because Jesus Christ, I mean, you know, there's a lot of crazies out there that will do crazy shit,
Oh yeah.
and
And we're only scratching the surface talking about some.
that's what I'm talking about. And you know, you can never be too careful. So
Yep.
make sure that you know, if you're out at a bar having drinks, I mean, no matter where it's here in the United States or in Europe or wherever you are, just make sure that, you know, when you have your drink, I mean, even if you get, like I said, you got to take it to the bathroom with you, or, you know, whatever the deal may be,
Yep.
just watch your ass, because there are people out
They're
there.
already watching it.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I've got a couple here that actually group together.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One actually goes with what you were talking about, going over to a foreign country.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk about that one and then jump right into the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Knock yourself out.
The one that I have to connect with yours is Missing, with Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek.
Oh, great movie.
Yep. Not so much that it's a horror film, not so much for the after effect of waiting months to have the body sent home to bury or anything like that. Mine is a cautionary tale of going to a foreign country in case they might break out in revolution. Do not go to these countries.
No.
For the longest time, after I think this movie came out in 81 or 82, it was for the longest time that, not that I was looking not to go to foreign countries for a vacation, it just scared me to death that I might go someplace and they might break out in revolution and then I'm stuck
It happens.
and I'm dead because hey, I'm not a small guy, I don't run very fast. I'm the kind of person that if there was a zombie apocalypse, I'm going to be tripping one of you guys because I'm not going to be able to move fast enough. I trip you, the zombies go after you, I get away.
Were you in Zombieland?
Oh, we're not even going to talk about that. But I'm just saying, that's
No,
it's just at the time that I saw that, not that I didn't know these things were happening in other countries, it's just that this put a whole spin on it that obviously the American government had no call on what could happen to you.
Right.
They really didn't care what happened to you, and in the long run, after the fact, they didn't care what happened to you afterwards.
Right.
So it sort of put a dampener on me in order to think about going away someplace.
And not to change the subject, but what was the name of that girl that? She went to Mexico, and she disappeared, and nobody could find her.
Okay, now you're gonna have to break it down to 1,200 people.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I have no idea. I thought you were leaning towards the girl that went to Italy and stayed in a room with her friends, and then one of her friends killed her. I can't remember. That court just finished up on that case not too long ago.
No. This was years ago. This is a girl. I think she went to Mexico or something, and she was at Carlos and Charlie's.
Mm-hmm.
She met this guy. He ended up murdering her, and for years they couldn't figure out who did it and whatnot. That was just. I mean, that's just creepy. I mean, she was on a. I think she was in high school.
Yeah.
But where she was in a foreign country.
Yeah. Basically, everything that everybody believes that because you're an American, you have some leeway in things. You have no leeway in anything. You are at the mercy of whatever government
Right.
you fall under.
Right.
And depending on what happens, I mean, we've all heard the story of the guy that ended up in the Turkish prison because he thought he was going to be smart and smuggle hash out.
Midnight Run.
No, not Midnight.
Midnight Express.
Midnight Express. We all know that story. The story is more true than you can tell. You ever figure out, because no matter what happens, you are at the mercy of their laws. So whatever you do, don't fuck up their laws. So if you're going to go someplace for a vacation, you should figure out what their laws are. Because if you go there and you screw up, the American consulate is probably not going to be able to help you in the least.
Right.
So you're just at their mercy.
That's like the movie, remember Losing It?
Yes.
With Tom Cruise?
With Tom Cruise, yeah.
And they all got arrested, and they were in the Mexican prison?
Yeah, they all went down to Tijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, from what I understand, is a big thing that they do in California. I've never gone, so I can't tell you it was anything big here in the Northeast.
Well, I hear that's some place you do not want to go.
Well, trust me, I didn't want to go. So I didn't.
Okay.
All right. The other one that I have to connect into that is not so much because it's a foreign place, but it's an actual foreign movie. Is Das Boot, which is The Boat.
Okay.
World War II film, German U-boat, and that's what the story's basically around the Germans and how they acted on the U-boats during the war. This is not anything against Germans. It's not anything against submarines. In a way, it is. It's something against submarines, because this movie was so well done, it made you feel claustrophobic.
Okay.
Throughout the entire film. I'm not extremely claustrophobic. I'm just a little bit. I can get by it, no problem. But just that little bit was dragged out of me because of this film. It's such a point that after watching the film, it was hard to sit in a car with a bunch of people. Because when I went to see this, I went in a minivan with a bunch of friends to see it. So there were probably 7 or 8 of us that went to see this film. I had a problem sitting in the minivan after I saw this film. And like I said, I'm not claustrophobic.
But then you suddenly became.
Because of that film.
Because of that movie.
I mean, after a while, it went back to the same way I am all the time. But because of that film, seeing that film, and getting out of that film, and still having that anxiety of being in that closed-off space, in the minivan, it was like, no, open the windows. Nope, that's not helping that much. I'm still getting anxious. It's just, it bothered me. I mean, today, I have all 3 versions of this film. I have the original German version, the English dubbed version, and the miniseries version that it got cut up into. I still love watching the original German version because I think the inflection in the natural German dialect that the movie's taking place in, it carries the feeling of the actor a lot better than the English dub. So you actually get the feeling from their speech that they are feeling the closed-in space and all of that.
Right, and they're scared.
Right, and where in the English dub you just don't get that.
Right.
But that bothered me for a long time.
No.
And it bothered me more because it happened, not because I felt claustrophobic, obviously, after the movie. But afterwards, I felt worse because it brought me to that point.
Right. Well, just on that note, I mean, I have a fear of flying. Excuse me.
You have a problem with airplane?
I do not like flying at all.
Oh, okay.
It's just one of those fears.
Yeah.
Same thing with, with Jaws.
Yeah.
I get a fear of
water.
Swimming in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. The movie Alive
Yes.
scared the shit out of me.
Let me tell you something. Let me stop you right there. Everybody has a fear of cannibalism.
I'm not talking about cannibalism. I'm talking about flying.
Okay.
But I
And
mean,
not the euphemism, right?
yeah, but I mean, honestly, think about this.
Yes.
I mean, if you were on an airplane and it crashed, and you're in the middle of nowhere,
Right. Yeah.
snowy mountains and whatnot, and you had to resort to cannibalism, do you really think you could do it?
Yes, as long as somebody else is doing the cooking.
God damn it.
I'm just saying, if somebody else is doing the cooking, then I'm all set. Every ham leg looks like a ham leg.
No, but I mean,
Yes, no, I agree with you. I'd have a problem with cannibalism.
You're sitting there looking at your friend and you'd be like, "Oh shit, should I eat you or not?"
No, but that's the whole point. That's when you look at it and go, tomorrow. See, now, if nothing else, you're not going to want to go anywhere with me.
But I mean, honestly, what if tomorrow never came and you're like, okay, we might or might not get rescued, but
that's the whole point.
I gotta eat.
I'm already planning on tomorrow. So if you're not planning on tomorrow, guess who's going to be dinner?
No, I gotta eat my dead friend. That's I don't know.
No, because somebody else is going to be cooking. I'll never know that you're in the stew.
How the fuck are you gonna be cooking? You're in the middle of the fucking mountains with snow. You got no fire.
So how am I going to eat you before you go spoiled?
Next subject.
All right. Now I know this is one of your favorite films.
Okay.
And I've seen all of the films to the series, and I can honestly say now, after watching all of the films all these years later, I do not have the same fear that I had when I first saw it. It was Phantasm.
Phantasm scared you?
The only part of Phantasm that scared me was being locked up in a mausoleum.
Okay, I can agree with that.
That because I never really knew what was in mausoleums until I saw that movie.
Okay,
but then you bring in other movies like One Dark Night. Okay?
Yeah.
Where I thought the thing was a joke, but I was already desensitized by so much horrors that I watched, that by the time I got to One Dark Night in the 80s, it was like, this is so laughable considering the other things I've watched. But it just brings on the point of, if you're in a mausoleum and the doors get shut on you at night, there is no way of you getting out.
Right.
Okay?
So you're fucked.
You're fucked. So it was just one of those childhood fears.
But I mean, One Dark Night...
How many planes go up every day?
I don't fucking know. But
and they don't stop when they crash.
Literally. Okay. But One Dark Night was a fun movie.
To some people who are into the genre. If they're not, then it was a horrific film.
I mean, but I found it very...
to me, I only found it funny because I'm desensitized by all that crap.
Well, the same thing here.
That's right.
And
so that's why you're...
With all the toes curled up when they're moving around.
You see, now my funny part was the girl that had the toothbrush in her mouth and constantly chomping on that toothbrush, even when the bodies were starting to pile on her. She was still chomping away at that toothbrush.
But you never know, she never brushed her teeth.
Maybe she didn't have to. All right. Go ahead.
Well, we were talking about, movies that made us feel uneasy and everything, but, whether they be real life or whatever, the one that I'm waiting to see is Quentin Tarantino's take on the Manson family. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but
I don't think he's going to hold back.
He may not hold back, but my problem is that with everything Tarantino does, you have to take tongue in cheek with a grain of salt. Okay, nothing is historically accurate. Okay, this is something entirely different than doing Django Unchained,
right?
Or The Hateful Eight.
Great movie.
Yes, I'm not saying anything about either film. I love both of them.
Right.
But I'm saying this is something entirely different. This is historical,
real life
data that if you change in any way for film reasons or for story reasons, people are going to call you out on it. And the way the critics are, they'll drag this movie down.
Well, they always do.
Right, but I'm talking about not so much the critics that we see on TV. Which I don't even know if there's critics on TV anymore. But the online critics,
right?
They're going to tear the film apart before it even gets out there because he's not being historically accurate, because he's taking this a little bit too far. This never happened. This isn't the way that happened. This came before that. They're going to pull this thing apart before he has a chance of getting it out there.
But here's the thing. With all those critics, it's like, okay, well, were you there? Did you see that? Did you actually witness that happen? And, I'm sure Tarantino has done his reviews and everything and, done his interviews and, hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see that? And, I'm sure he's done his homework.
Okay, so if any of these critics get some of the surviving police officers or the surviving prosecution attorneys or defense attorneys,
which I'm sure they will.
They will, because they're still alive.
Yeah.
In fact, I read Helter Skelter not too long ago.
Okay.
And it was written by the prosecuting attorney.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I expected at some point this book was going to end at a certain point, obviously because the book was from the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, not only did it not end there, it didn't realize that the main prosecutor was still alive at the time, because he was actually outlived Manson.
Right. Who just recently passed away.
Right. But the thing is that he wrote an updated afterward to the book.
But do you think that was all fiction, or
what I read in the book?
No. What he added onto the story.
No, because it was just to bring everybody up to date.
Okay.
Because the book was, like I said, originally written in the 70s.
Right.
So when they re-released the book, he wrote a new afterward, bringing it up literally to the point just after Manson had died. Because he mentions that Manson died.
But I mean, honestly,
so if these people are still alive at the point of, this movie coming out, and anybody, they're going to have their say.
Right.
They'll, because then, then things will stop, being wondered. How much of this is true fact? How much of this is fiction?
Yeah, but then the whole movie is going to become controversial.
Right.
And that's just going to make Quentin.
Right. That's fine. But how many of these movie companies now, these theaters, are going to carry a controversial movie?
Because
honestly, because you can't tell me that any of these movies, if they don't make money in the first 2 weeks, that they'll last.
No. Because movies go in and out.
Right.
Nowadays.
So if you release Tarantino's movie,
yep.
If you don't make any money close to what you think the first weekend should be,
you're going to pull it.
You're going to pull it. And then Tarantino's going to end up with one, not to say one of those flops, but it will end up because of the way Hollywood looks at everything, it will end up being a flop,
Right.
which isn't what we want as Tarantino fans.
Right. But then on DVD, it'll become a cult classic.
Yeah, of course. Now, speaking of cult classics, again, I've got two that I can connect together.
All right.
Okay, the first one we'll go with because I know we both love this film.
Okay.
Is Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead.
Absolutely.
Not only was it a classic in the sense that it was a classic while it was in the theater and in the drive-in,
Right.
but it became a cult classic even further because it was at the cusp of home video rental.
Absolutely.
Because all the people, all the kids, whatever, that wanted to see this movie in the theater that never got a chance to, were able to rent the video and take it home and watch it.
Right. And that's the first time I saw it.
A home rental.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's probably the same way I saw it too. But I mean, granted, it made money in the theater because it was basically made on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And that's a toddler's shoestring as it is. It wasn't a full length shoestring, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it made. I think it was made for pennies, really. Pennies on the dollar. It was made for less than $1 million. If anything's made
absolutely.
if it was made for anything less than $1 million, then it's a shoestring budget.
Right.
But I think it was even more less than that. That's why I'm saying it's a toddler's shoestring.
Right.
So.
And for any of you Evil Dead fans out there, check out Sam Raimi's first attempt at the Evil Dead, which was Within the Woods. And you can see that on YouTube. But, yeah, back to the Evil Dead. I mean, the first time I saw that, I had just bought a VCR. And, decided to rent some movies. And the first one I rented was Halloween because that was my favorite movie.
Right, yeah.
And then I was looking around the video store, and they really didn't have too much back then, but I saw two movies that I really wanted to see, and one of them was Videodrome, which I rented, and I was pleased with it. And then I went back, and then I rented The Evil Dead, and The Evil Dead just blew me away.
Yeah.
It blew me out of the water. I mean, I had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, see, now to bring up what that disturbed me was the cabin in the woods feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You got one cabin, nothing around it at all, not even a lake.
Right.
There's nothing there. That's what bothered me
Right.
about it. I
Back
don't
to
think,
the claustrophobic.
Yeah, but it's also back to the camping thing because it's
Right.
like how can you get back to civilization? You got the car. If you can make it to the car.
Right. Right.
Because that's also one of the few films that I had to show to a friend and actually slow down and pause to prove to them that the girl that had run out into the woods was actually being raped by the tree. I'm sorry to say that I had to prove that to somebody.
No,
but it was like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
That's kind of sad.
And it was like, what do you mean? I said, I'll play it back. You play the scene back and go, I don't understand. The trees attacked her, and got her wound up in the vines and everything. I said, wait a minute, you're missing. That's as bad as I had to repeat the scene in Alien to show that Brett was being raped by the alien.
Right.
How could I prove that? Well, the part is when Ripley is running down the hall, you hear Lambert in the loudspeaker going, ah! And then she's dead. The things that we have to have in our horror movies in order to keep our attention. All right, the other one was...
So yes, the girl in the Evil Dead was fucked by a tree.
No, she wasn't fucked by a tree. She was raped by a tree.
Actually,
this is the nowadays. She didn't want it. Did she want it?
No. She didn't want
She
it.
didn't want it, so it was rape.
But it was actually a vine. So, okay. Next.
The Shining. Go from one girl to the other.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I've got two problems with this. Okay? I'll pick the obvious one first. Okay?
Okay.
Maybe obvious to me, not to you.
The naked chick in the tub.
That was the unobvious one.
All right.
The unobvious one is the naked chick in the tub.
Okay.
I, to this day, if I walk into a hotel room or a motel room or whatever, I have to check the bathtub. To this day.
Get the fuck out of here.
I just have to make sure that there's nothing in there. Nothing or no one.
You're fucked up.
I'm fucked up. At least I can fly. The other thing about The Shining is the twins.
Creepy.
When Danny Torrance comes around the corner and the twins are there and they do the little,
hello, Danny.
You want to play with us? You can be our friends forever
and ever and ever.
I'm sorry. To this day.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
To this day, I cannot watch The Shining without the lights on. In the middle of the night, with the lights off, can't do it.
Get the fuck out.
No,
of here.
can't do it. No, sorry. The woman in the bathtub doesn't bother me. It's the girls that bother me that I can't do it in. Last time I did this, I was sitting in my mother's living room watching it, and there was nothing behind the back of the chair. It was the hall. It was a hall going into the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay. That scene came on, their little speech, and I'm just looking around, and I couldn't see the back of the chair. That bothered me even more.
So you freaked the fuck out.
Yep, and shut it off and went to bed. That's where I leave that.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, your turn.
All right. I think I'm pretty much done.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Did I actually do more on this list again?
Yeah, you did more than me.
All right. Well, we'll start it from the two, and then my last one that I really freak out. It's two together, but they're kind of for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first one we'll talk about is Videodrome.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
what creeped you out about Videodrome?
The guy with the hand. That it was all one organism.
Oh, we just pulled it out of his stomach.
Out of his stomach.
Yeah.
That kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
I mean, it had nothing to do with the fact that the opening in his stomach looked like a vagina. That had nothing to do with it at all. It was that he reached all the way in, almost to his elbow,
and then pulled it out.
and then pulled it out. And that was a euphemism to pull the gun out.
But I mean, David Cronenberg, who directed that movie,
He likes gross out horror like that.
he's done a lot of freaky shit,
Yeah,
like Shivers, Scanners,
Scanners,
which I loved.
The Brood with all the creepy little children.
The Brood, and his incredible remake of The Fly.
Oh yeah. But then you also have Dead Ringers.
Wasn't a big fan.
But we're not talking about being a fan. We're talking about being creeped out.
Well,
by
yeah,
things.
I was creeped out.
All right, then you were creeped out. Extends.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the movie he did about accident victims? Trying to remember.
Fuck me.
It was Rosanna Arquette was in it, I think.
Next topic.
I can't remember, but that was people getting off on playing around with wounds. That while they were kissing and making out, one person would take their finger and rub it along the edge of the wound that they had just had sewn up, or like where they had a big huge gash in their leg, and you'd see the girl working her finger up and along the edge of it as they're making out on the couch.
Was that same wacky movie with Jennifer Jason Leigh?
I don't remember. I don't remember the name of it. I couldn't help you. But Rosanna Arquette, I thought, was in it, but maybe not.
Maybe.
But that of course that's Cronenberg. Okay. The other thing is, I get 2 movies that are literally for sharp objects. Okay.
All right.
I got Hellraiser
Mm-hmm.
because of the hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Hellraiser 2 because of the straight edge razor.
Mm-hmm.
And Dead Zone because of the scissors. Because when the guy commits suicide.
All right, let's get crazy. Hit me.
All right. Well, what do you? I just have a problem with sharp objects, and that just sort of like brought it to the forefront. Especially the guy with the straight edge razor trying to cut off the maggots that he thought were in his biting into his body.
That was in Hellraiser 2, right?
That was in Hellraiser 2, yeah.
That was pretty gross because he's just sitting there and
he was clawing at his body because he thought the maggots were there, and then the doctor handed him a straight edge razor.
And he's like, yeah,
because he thought he could cut them off.
Yeah,
He was
and
literally cutting into his body.
slicing himself up, and then
Yeah.
that was creepy.
Okay.
That was
The last thing I want to even mention is an old TV show. Don't know if you ever watched it. Was The Night Gallery. It was.
I've seen some episodes.
Okay,
yeah.
it was Rod Serling's horror version of The Twilight Zone. It ran in the 70s.
Right.
Okay. A lot of the stories were tongue-in-cheek because it was 1970s television. You couldn't go all-out horror. But there was some that really pushed the limit. The one that I remember the most is one called Green Fingers, a takeoff on somebody who has a green thumb. Okay, that they're good at planting. Well, this whole story wraps around this older woman who owns this piece of property that this company is trying to buy out. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And all she can do is plant all day. She's got all these flowers, all these vegetables, all this, and she talks about it as if they're her children.
So that's all she does the whole day.
The whole day. She's retired. She's got all the property. She owns the property outright. She doesn't have to pay mortgage. All she does is she just goes on. Okay. So what ends up happening is basically she makes the comment that no matter what she plants, grows, and she even talks about the fact that she accidentally buried a rotted end to a potato that fell out of her garbage, and she accidentally buried it when she was planting, and she actually had potatoes growing out of that one little piece that had grown. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a throwaway line, and as they're going along, the guy that owns this company wants her out bad, so he hires this thug to basically get rid of her no matter what. Well, he ends up breaking into the house one night, scares her, catches her in the kitchen, right? Cuts off her fingers. Basically being, you're going to be gone. No, you're not staying. So, he leaves. I don't remember if they say how the police end up there, but the police end up at the house. Find her holding her arm up underneath her chest, right? Holding back the blood and playing around in the dirt. Okay? And you think she's in shock. She's trying, and even the cop says, I think she's in shock. She thinks she's planting in the yard. And they say, okay, fine. They get her into the ambulance, get her to the hospital. Well, she dies on the table. The guy that owns the company finds out that she died. So he thinks he's good. He's home free. She has no relatives, All he has to do is wait the probate court out, and then he can buy the property from the state. So he's all set.
I'm home free.
Exactly. But what ends up happening is he goes to the house to do like his little victory dance. And while he's there, the thug shows up, and he tells the guy what he had to do. He says, I didn't want you to do that. I just wanted you to scare her. I said, well, I scared her pretty good. So he leaves. Now the chauffeur overhears this conversation, and he's totally disgusted now that he would resort to something like this to get this old lady's house. So he tells him, I quit. I don't care. I just can't work for you anymore. He gets in the car and drives away. Now, while he's getting into the car, the guy hears some rustling in the side yard. So he walks over there to see what it is. He sees these fingertips start rotating in the ground, trying to get up out of the dirt. So he freaks him out. He runs back to the chauffeur. The chauffeur is already long gone down the road. And he starts bawling. He's like, oh my God, somebody's got to help me. Somebody's got to get me out of here. Somebody's got to help me. And then all of a sudden he hears somebody like walking up across the porch. He stops, starts thinking, and it's like, oh my God, what the hell is this? Thinking the first thing he saw was just out of, play of the light out of the corner of his eye, didn't mean much. He goes into the house because he hears some singing. He gets in there, and there's the old woman rocking back and forth in her rocking chair with all these roots hanging off of her arms and off of her legs and everything, going, that's right, everything I plant grows. Every single thing. Everything grows. Then you see him rushing out of the house, white-haired, everything, and looking in the camera going, did you ever hear the story about the old woman who had a green thumb and whatever she planted growed? And then that's it. That episode freaked the hell out of me I saw that when I was like 7.
Well, you just freaked the fuck out of me by doing that impersonation right now. I don't find it funny.
What, the laugh or the story?
Just your impersonations, man. I was like, wow, that's kind of
creepy.
What
do you mean by that?
Don't do that shit.
All right. So I think that's pretty much it for us tonight.
Yes. And a shout out to Elio Canella. Thank you so much, brother. We're going to try to get this rolling right. But as far as
Vinnie the Vault
and Popco and Pete, this has been the MMO Radio Show, the Mark Out